a few different things to get to. One is probably the biggest news out of the college football world, and it's something we had kind of heard rumblings of, but finally became official yesterday, and that is that Jordan Hudson, the former TCU wide receiver and a big-time prospect from the class of 2022, has transferred and announced that he has transferred to SMU. He's going across. He's doing the reverse Sonny Dykes.
Correct.
Going from TCU to SMU. It really completes the trade, right? It was Sonny Dykes for a player to be named later. The player to be named later is just Jordan Hudson. I made that up. But this is a big get here for Rhett Lashley and company. Jordan Hudson was the real jewel of the TCU recruiting class back in 2022. He was the number 17 prospect in all of Texas, according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football Rising. He was a big-time four-star guy. He had his senior year there at Garland. He was really impressive. 67 catches, nearly 1,200 yards, and 22 touchdowns. He was the best freshman on TCU last year. He did have 2 touchdown catches in their big win over Iowa State to close out the regular season. But Jordan Hudson is now going across the Metroplex to transfer from TCU to SMU. Now, it is worth mentioning that at one point, Jordan Hudson was an SMU commit. He was an SMU commit at one point during his process before he decommitted and committed to TCU. So following Sonny Dykes, basically.
Yeah.
But after 1 year there at TCU, he is committed back to the Ponies. He is going to be on SMU this upcoming season. So big news there out of the college football ranks. Elsewhere in the college football ranks, if this is your kind of thing, if you are filling out your planner, and I know you are, you're a big planner gal.
I am, and I get made fun of for that.
There's nothing wrong with planner.
I don't know. I feel like I remember stuff better if I write it down.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm on my phone all the time. I don't want to be looking at my calendar on my phone.
What are you doing September 9th?
Are you about to tell me what I'm doing September 9th?
Well, specifically, I'm going to tell you the game time for Texas and Alabama, because that was announced this past week.
Yeah, Willie's going.
Yeah, Texas is visiting Alabama in Tuscaloosa. It was set for 6 p.m. under the lights in Tuscaloosa as the Texas Longhorns will take on Alabama. They're a 6 o'clock kick. It'll almost certainly, barring something extremely unforeseen, be at least a top 25 matchup there. And you remember Texas gave Alabama everything they wanted in Austin. Now it's the return trip to Tuscaloosa. It will be very interesting. Carter Yates, our college football writer, writes that it is particularly interesting because Alabama does appear relatively vulnerable. We don't really know who their quarterback's going to be right now.
They lost 2 games last year?
And Texas is looking like a team that can probably the favorite to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
So big game there in non-district or non-conference play, I should say, as Alabama and Texas will.
That could be a huge staple for if Texas was able to pull that out.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
Just before going to the SEC and all of that, that would be going in the right direction.
Corey Hogue, our weekly visit to Corey Hogue's writing sphere.
Yes.
He's got a lot going on.
That's actually trending on Twitter right now.
Corey Hogue, by the way, he's got some news there in the Blitz. I highly recommend going and reading the Blitz because there was big news out of the American Southwest Conference last week, and it was broken by our own Corey Hogue. And he is really, I'm not trying to blow smoke up his rear end, but Corey is basically like shaping the dialogue in the Division III football world right now.
Yeah.
And a big part of it is that there is the American Southwest Conference on Monday lost 2 teams. Concordia University and University of the Ozarks starting in July 2024. CTX and Ozarks, those are big losses for the American Southwest Conference. You may remember that, so in 2024, as it stands right now, the American Southwest Conference will have 6 teams as it stands right now. Mary Hardin, Baylor, Hardin-Simmons, East Texas Baptist, and Howard Payne, plus LeTourneau and UT Dallas. UT Dallas is a real wild card right now. But basically, this throws the whole viability of the American Southwest Conference into flux because we don't really know. Now, one of the things that he dives into in the Blitz about this is, like all things, this has to do with religion. So you may remember Mary Hardin Baylor Hardin Simmons, East Texas Baptist, and Howard Payne, all Baptist universities. They're called the Baptist Four. One of the reasons is that that they said that there could that some so let me just read. Start. I'm sorry. Take two.
That was a colossal meltdown.
That was great. Scatterbrained.
Tweeting that.
I haven't slept a ton. Take two. In 3, 2. So if you take a look at the ideological split between these teams, right? 5 of the teams, so the Concordia and the 2 teams that are leaving the ASC, Concordia and University of the Ozarks, they are leaving for the SCAC, which is the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference. You with me so far? And by joining them, they are now going to be they're Presbyterian. They're moving over to which is going to allow them a little bit more versatility, specifically with selling alcoholic games. The Baptist teams, this is sources telling Corey Hogue, the Baptist schools don't want to allow alcohol to be sold at a game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can even say, like, we went to a Baylor game this past year, and it was like, we got there and we're like, oh, there's definitely not going to be beer inside.
No. They have certain values that they want to uphold. This is not a judgment call one way or the other.
No.
I'm just telling you that's kind
there's
of
the reasoning. That is crazy that, like, it does boil down to that.
Yes. So the ASC is really in flux right now, so keep an eye on that. And Corey Hogue, of course, still kind of shaping the dialogue there. Another piece by Corey Hogue up on TexasFootball.com talking about exhibition games for non-FBS teams. So Hugh Freeze, who sucks, but Hugh Freeze is the coach at Auburn. And again, just can't stress enough how much Hugh Freeze sucks. But Hugh Freeze had an idea that germinated in his mind grapes a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, I hate that.
In which he said that he wants that instead of doing spring games, he says that teams should have they could have exhibition games. Specifically that like Auburn could play some other team, like maybe an FCS team or something like that. And so Corey went and talked with a number of non-FBS teams and said, hey, what would you think about having an exhibition instead of a spring game? Specifically that there would be a little bit more intensity. Hugh Freeze, again, who sucks, said that there could be a number of you could raise money for charity and things like that.
Yeah.
That is the kind of idea. The story is really interesting to hear these takes from these coaches about that they're basically split on the idea. It is one of those ideas that sounds great until you think about it for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple things that go. I haven't read the piece. I need to go read it. But there's multiple things. One, are the FCS teams going to be getting paid to do this?
Bingo.
If so, that's huge for them. But I don't think any university is going to want to shell out extra money so that you can go play an exhibition game. And then, two, that seems really bad for injury purposes.
Let me just tell you something. First of all, it could be bad for injury purposes. The other thing about it, if I'm FCS school, A&M Commerce, if I'm Commerce and Texas wants to play me,
that's great. Pay me. Yeah.
Where's my check?
Exactly.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to. You want to have an exhibition? 100%. Let's do it. That'll be $250,000, please.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no way that any sort of university athletic director, you're not going to be...
when you could just play each other.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's no way that would ever work.
It just, it was
You're
one
not
of those
shelling
ideas,
out $250,000
It's one of
for
those
that.
ideas that pops up in the off season, so it gets a little bit of traction because there's nothing else to talk about. And it's one of those things that, again, sounds good until you think about it for a little bit more than 5 seconds. And then it turns out that it's a bad idea from a guy who, again, can't stress enough sucks.
Yeah, there would be every other sport, men's or women's, would be so upset if they knew that money was going out for an exhibition game rather than, I don't know, new uniforms for the golf team. You know, like
scholarships.
Yeah, facility upgrades.
A lot of things you can do besides forking out more money for a pay that doesn't even count and doesn't get you towards a bowl game.
No.
I don't know. To high school we go. There was some big movement in the high school football coaching ranks last week, and one of them is a repeat offender. So Crosby, you may remember, has been open. Jerry Prieto stepped down after 4 seasons, 4 very successful seasons. It was a pretty surprising move there. Well, they have made a hire. Crosby has hired Joe Willis, the head coach of Tyler Legacy, to be their next head coach. He is a state champion head coach, leading Cedar Park to a state championship. And he's a repeat offender of this. Now, he's free to change jobs whenever he wants, of course. But I will take you back. Let me make sure I get the year right, because this happened. So for those who don't know, we are presently, I believe, we're 4 days away from sending this magazine to press. Oh, we're getting ready to get this.
Oh, did he do this? Okay. Yep. Yeah, I know exactly where this is going.
2015, we're getting ready to send this magazine to press. And we catch wind that Joe Willis might be leaving Cedar Park to go to Colleyville Heritage. Now, Cedar Park, I believe, was either number 1 or number 2 in our ranking.
Oh, yeah, that was...
They were cooking with Crisco. They're coming off of a state championship game appearance. They're state runners-up the year before. And 2 years prior to that, they'd won the state championship.
And they had a good roster returning,
really good. So we catch wind. And this is the day we're sending to press. And so I have to, text Joe Willis. I'm like, Coach, I can keep it quiet, but, I'm hearing these things. We're sending the magazine to press. You got to let me know. Now, to Joe Willis's credit, he did text me back, and he said, yes, it's true, but please don't tell anybody until, I think, Monday they were announcing it.
Yeah.
Right? We were
it was like, oh, that's fine. No one sees this magazine for,
it prints for
3 weeks.
But he is a repeat offender for the late coaching. Got my eye on you, Joe.
You need to text him and say something like, thanks for getting us
not
in,
again, dude. Anyway, so Crosby
thanks for making it a week earlier this year.
Crosby's the new head coach. Big splashy hire there. Crosby, the next head coach is Joe Willis. He has been hired. Sherman has made a hire. Josh Ailman is going to be the next head coach at Sherman. He was a former Texas Tech standout. He is a Sherman grad, and he was the offensive coordinator for Denton Braswell last season. He was going to join the staff at Prosper Rock Hill after the coaching change at Braswell, but now he's going to be the next head coach at Sherman. He was head coach at SNS Consolidated for 3 seasons, and actually did a nice little turnaround there for the Rams. Went from 1-9 to 6-5, and got them their first playoff victory since 2014 back there in 2020. He is a Sherman grad. Jeff Cordell, the Sherman ISD athletic director, announced his hire. Big doings there. He of course played at Texas Tech, but Sherman has their next head coach. It'll be Josh Ailman. Elsewhere, Boys Ranch has their next head coach. Lewis Kelly III is going to be the next head coach at Boys Ranch. He is actually the grandson of legendary head coach Lewis Kelly. Lewis Kelly is the member of a THSCA Hall of Honor. He was 240, 90, and 1 at Lubbock Dunbar and Lubbock Estacado over 30 seasons. He is a mainstay in the Lubbock area. But Boys Ranch is looking for was looking for a head coach because Aaron Wampler, who of course did unbelievable work there at Boys Ranch, went to take the job at Clarendon. They've hired Lubbock Coronado running backs coach Lewis Kelly III to be their next head coach. And finally, there was 7-on-7 this weekend, Pickle. Did you see this? Did you hear about this? There were 7-on-7 across the state, and we have some new teams that will be joining us in College Station in late June. At the Cy-Fair West SQT, Cy Falls and Fort Bend Hightower, whose coach we're about to hear from, both qualified. In the Allen SQT, Sherman and Arlington Lamar both qualified. Arlington Lamar is the most successful 7-on-7 program in the state, so it is not a surprise. I want to say this is their 25th straight year qualifying. It's insane. They're really good at it. And so Arlington Lamar and Sherman both there. Lake Travis SQT, the homesteading Lake Travis Cavaliers, and San Marcos are both qualified for the state's 7-on-7 tournament in College Station. They're at Grand Oaks and Conroe, the Woodlands College Park and College Station. I caught wind. I think it was it Powers in the Slack? He was saying that Arrington Maiden at College Station was slinging it.
Yeah, it was Powers.
Step. It was either Powers or Step. They were slinging it.
I think
at the El Paso SQT, it will be El Paso Eastwood and El Paso Eastlake who have both qualified for the state's 7-on-7 tournament. So Eastwood and Eastlake both going to make the trip to College Station. In Division II, Hampshire Finette and Hitchcock both qualified for the state 7-on-7 tournament at the Hitchcock XQT. The Anna state qualifying tournament. Sunnyvale and Frisco Panther Creek qualified for state 7-on-7.
How about that? This is their first year of that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then out in East Texas, Chapel Hill SQT, it was Sulphur Springs and Carthage both qualified. So we'll get to see Scott Surratt be real mad he can't call plays. It's always my favorite thing. Seeing coaches who are, especially play callers like Surratt, who are just sitting there just like gritting their teeth.
Oh, I hope Miss Summer is there. She was there last year.
I'm sure she'll be there. And Ponder SQT, it was Graham and Springtown qualified for the state 7-on-7 tournament. Columbia SQT, it was San Antonio Davenport, I believe, and Cameron Yo both qualified for the state 7-on-7 tournament. And Needville and Stafford qualified for the state 7-on-7 tournament. And then down in Division 3, you can expect to see Tioga and Jacksboro. Plus at Stanford SQT, it was Hawley, defending 2A Division I state champions, and Merkel. And then Brazos SQT, Lexington and East Bernard qualified for state 7-on-7. Of course, we will have complete coverage of state 7-on-7 on TexasFootball.com, so go check that out.